Welcome back to No Sugar, no sugar nista, no sugar mama. Hi everyone, welcome back to No Sugar with Everything Kraus.
So today we have a very special episode. It is our first interview, which I think you can probably tell by Kateri and I's faces. It's just we are so excited about because interviewing has been something on the no sugar to-do list for quite a while, and it's always been a part of our plan. And this was the first step towards moving towards that goal. And I honestly think that's really what got us into podcasting in the first place, was that we always listened to podcasts that had interviews and we totally resonated with them and loved listening to them. And it's really exciting that we're going to be doing the same thing now.
I know. Literally just finished the interview and I am high on life, basically.
High on life. Completely high on life.
It was amazing, and I know that you guys are going to love it. So today we had the pleasure of interviewing two amazing guests who saw an empty space in a pretty saturated market, and that's protein bars. So Drew and Emily are co-founders of Resist. Resist protein bars are plant-based functional protein bars filled with science-backed ingredients to support hormone and blood sugar health. So if you know us, this is the type of product that we can get behind. This is one that we truly believe in. And after having a conversation with Drew and Emily, I'm even like more on board for this company than I was just by reading things on Instagram and on their webpage. Like I am a Resist stan, that's for sure.
Like I could not be more of a fan of Resist. And
Literally.
It was so special because, we read all those things online about their company. And we're like, okay, perfect. They align with us. And then throughout this conversation, we just learned how much they really do truly align with us and our thought processes, everything about the health industry, everything about food, clean ingredients that we talk to you guys so much about how big of a part that is of our lives. Like they fully embody that and took that mission to their company. And it just really resonated with us.
Yeah, they're so passionate too about their company and about their product, and just passionate about staying true to what they put out there. And they promote that it's hormone healthy and supports blood sugar. And they're not just saying that, they really put their money where their mouth is. And you can hear the passion in their voices and in what they're saying throughout this entire episode. So I just really think that you guys are going to enjoy it. And I know we did. I learned so much from them in this episode, just everything we talked about hormone health and all the things that we don't even realize in the things that we're eating that, we talk about. But, when you hear someone who's diagnosed with a hormonal disorder really talk about it, you see the impact that our food has on us. And yeah, it was just an amazing conversation. I know you guys are going to love it. I can't say enough good things about Drew and Emily and Resist and this interview.
I just need to add one thing too, because what I gathered from the conversation, my biggest takeaway is that their main priority truly is us, the consumer. They are not trying to make money off us. They are not trying to just get us to buy another protein bar that's a little bit healthier. They are trying to make us live a healthier life and allow us to trust a company without even having to read the ingredients. And having people in our corner like that, really supporting us and pushing us towards a better life, are exactly who you need. And that's why I really love this conversation so much. So I know that you guys will absolutely enjoy it too.
Yes. So with that being said, please welcome Drew and Emily to No Sugar with Everything Kraus. Drew and Emily, welcome to No Sugar with Everything Kraus. We are so excited to have you here today. Why don't we start with both of you just kind of introducing yourselves, giving a little bit of background information, and kind of telling your story to what led you to Resist and starting your own company.
Yeah, sounds great. I can get started. My name is Drew. I'm one of the co-founders of Resist. We make nutrition bars designed for blood sugar health and hormonal health. And Emily and I met while at NYU, so I'll let her also intro herself before I go into the larger story.
I'm Emily. I'm also one of the co-founders of Resist. And I went to NYU, and that's where I met Drew. Or I was getting my master's in food studies. Always been interested in health and wellness, was raised without red meat, super aware of the impact food had on our health, just growing up that way. So once I graduated undergrad, I decided to get my master's in food studies at NYU, and that's where I met Drew.
Awesome. And Drew, what did you graduate with?
So I was doing my undergrad in acting and journalism. I also got a minor in business, but yeah, I had done acting my whole life, really thought, oh, want to be an actor. Where should I go do that? New York
Mhm.
City. Um, but while I was there, I realized, this is not exactly the all fun and games that I was expecting.
Yeah, what you see on
Um,
TV.
Exactly, exactly. It was hard work and a lot of unknowns. So then I went into entrepreneurship, which is a lot of hard work and a lot of unknowns.
Mhm.
Yes.
Exactly.
But totally worth it. And I think it's very similar in a lot of ways. Going into acting, you go in with a passion and a drive and just a love for it. I think that's what also makes a successful founder is someone who is passionate about what they're doing, is excited, is not going to give up.
Mhm.
Um, has a personal story connected to it, and is prepared to do kind of that hard work and focus and listening, which is also something you do in acting a lot. But yeah, that's what I was doing, and I graduated in the pandemic, so this was 2020, and luckily NYU gave a lot of resources to graduates in the pandemic, and that allowed me to still take advantage of a lot of the resources through the Entrepreneurial Institute at NYU.
Oh,
And
awesome.
that really was where I met Emily. And to kind of go back a few steps to how I got there, I was diagnosed with PCOS and insulin resistance. And for listeners who don't know what PCOS is, it's polycystic ovarian syndrome. It affects around 13% of people with ovaries, but the number is expected to be much larger than that because a lot of the times the symptoms are considered normal. And some of the symptoms can be irregular periods, acne, hair loss, excess hair. Um, and most people don't find out until they're trying to get pregnant.
Mhm.
But infertility or trouble getting pregnant is actually not as common of a symptom. I believe it only affects around 20% of women with PCOS, and the rest, these other symptoms can come into play for a diagnosis. So there's three kind of ways or three criteria rather for getting that diagnosis. It's irregular periods, abnormal hormonal panel, and then actual enlarged follicles on the ovaries. And so when I was diagnosed, I found out that I had all three. Um, and it's a anyone who has gotten diagnosed with PCOS has had like a thank God I finally found out what it is,
Mhm.
because I felt weird and nothing helped. And my doctor recommended birth control, and I, was very frustrated. And these symptoms that people think are normal are not necessarily normal and can be factors of a lot of other things. And I think kind of getting the diagnosis at least gave me some clarity. And then bringing in kind of my relationship with blood sugar, 75% of women who have PCOS also have insulin resistance, and insulin resistance is very pervasive. It also affects a third of Americans. Again, that number is also projected to be bigger than that because of the standard American diet being so high in sugar. And it's basically where the body responds abnormally to the hormone insulin. Um, and really, the only cure for metabolic disorders like this, cure in
Yeah.
quotation marks, is lifestyle changes and diet. And I was diagnosed as a college student, so you're drinking, you're eating at weird hours, and so I tried my best to do what my doctor said, which was a low carb, high protein diet, adding in more fiber, things like that. And so I really turned to, I mean, this was also like the height of the fitness influencer. So,
Yeah,
or
especially
you remember all
COVID.
the,
On
oh,
Instagram,
yeah.
social media, it was like everything blew up. I was doing the same
Oh my
thing, really
gosh.
up in the protein bars, anything I could.
Exactly. So, all the fitness influencers were out and about doing their what I eat in a days, and I was just copying them. Through that, started to develop an unhealthy relationship with food, one, and also really, really reduce my sugar intake, but really increase my artificial sugar intake. And I started watching symptoms pop up that I'd never had before. Like I had had acne here and there, but this time it was really crazy hormonal acne and hair loss and extremely dry skin, horrible mood swings, intense bloating and inflammation around my face. And when I went to a dietitian and a hormonal specialist, they were like, I was like, I have a low sugar diet. Like, I don't know. And, I eat well. I eat, fitness foods.
Mhm.
I have protein powder. I work out. How could this be? And they were basically like, these artificial ingredients are hormone disrupting,
Mhm.
and they might keep your blood sugar stable, but your your blood sugar, insulin, the hormone insulin, is only one part of your endocrine system.
Mhm.
And you have all these other hormones that are now being influenced by the products that you're putting in it, and being kind of stressed from those ingredients. And so got rid of those, started to kind of make my diet a lot more whole food based and a lot less fitness food oriented. But it's college, and I was working a job and an internship and a school. And I was like, I'm going to starve if I don't eat something on the go that's filling.
Mhm.
And that was like the key. And so I started eating bars that were dates or oats or honey based, as far as how they were sweetened, thinking that they're fruit sugars, they're different, they're better. And they spiked my blood sugar. And I was exhausted all the time because of it. And I really felt like there was nothing in between. So through that, had this idea of, why isn't there a natural product that's doesn't use any artificial ingredients, but also isn't using a lot of these natural sugars that spike blood sugar? Is this possible? And that was when I met Emily. And with her experience in food studies, we started working on Resist. So I'll let Emily kind of grab it from there about how we actually got started.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just want to note to our listeners and everyone, it's wild. Like when you said normal, those symptoms are normal, but they're so far from normal. Like
Yes.
They're
it's
common.
normal. Yeah, they're common. Just because it's common doesn't mean it's okay. And it's just crazy that we can't even trust like the foods we're eating. You would think like you weren't going to pick up a donut and eating it thinking like, oh, what's happening to me? You were going and getting a protein bar or just on the go snacks or drinking a protein shake, not even thinking like, oh, this is now going to cause another array of symptoms to pop up. Like that's what gets me so frustrated is you think like, oh, I'm okay eating this. And then you go and someone's like, this is actually doing way more harm than good to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating, and it
Mhm.
is the assumption that like fitness food or something that a athlete is eating equals health.
Mhm.
Fitness doesn't always equal health.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, like I'm trying to be healthy, not just like fit on the outside. Like the inside's gotta show that because if without building that like good foundation inside, like you said, you had dry skin, your hair, all that stuff, and I experience that too when I have like more sugar, all of that. And if I'm not glowing from the inside, how are you going to see it on the outside? Like that's the goal
Yeah.
here. So you guys paired up together. What was Emily? Did you have any like similar experiences, or were you just because of your nutrition background, where you're like, yes, this is something I can get behind? How did that kind of that idea really merge together to work with each other?
Yeah. So I am going through my own health journey, own hormone health journey. And during the pandemic, I would go on these what I called podcast and walks. So I would literally walk the entire day because I didn't have anything else to do, and just got into podcasts. And that's when I really started to learn about the food industry and the impact all these hidden ingredients have on us. Then I went to school, but the protein bar space just felt it needed a refresh. You go down there and there's protein bars with pictures of cake and cookies on the front. You're just like, how could this ever be good for anyone? But so many of us just don't have the level of education to understand that we need to take time to read the ingredients versus just the nutrition facts. Because what makes up the bar is so much more important than the macros of the bar. And like you said, it's about feeling good from the inside out, and just what goes into the bar is what's fueling you. That was another thing. So many of us look at food as something harmful when we need food. It is fuel. It's what gets us through the day. And that was just another aspect of the industry that I really wanted to help rewrite, that food is, it's not bad, it's good, and we need to really change that narrative.
It's really frustrating that the fitness industry, the fitness food space, is so automatically thought of as healthy, because it does kind of require us as the consumer to become an expert, to be able to read those ingredient labels. And that's not fair to the average person who is busy and shouldn't have to become an expert or go back to school to understand their own bodies. I feel like I see so many health coaches and naturopaths who literally had to go back to school to understand their own symptoms and solve their own issues. And most people don't have the time or money to do that, and they shouldn't have to. And I think it's our responsibility as food producers and creators of nutrition, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. So many founders of food companies are not coming at it from that perspective. They are not thinking about the impact on health, and the long-term effects that this will have. And we're seeing it already. Like, Emily and I talk all the time about the crazy statistics that are out there that high sugar diets and artificial ingredients are contributing to as far as metabolic issues and hormonal health issues. Like, we love to talk about the decline in sperm count because that is like the only thing that gets men to listen to us. It's like,
That's a good one.
exactly. Like, if their virility is like in question, then they'll finally listen to how much these, artificial ingredients are impacting them. And unfortunately, in a lot of male targeted fitness foods, they are chock full of these artificial ingredients. Like, we're looking at so many crazy lawsuits for brands out there. And for example, Prime, it's called Prime, right? The Jake Paul's brand.
Yeah.
It is.
Logan
Yes,
Paul.
yes.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
This shows
Sorry.
what
I
I know
didn't
about
know.
pop
I didn't
culture.
know if you were talking about that. I'm like, I think it's that, but I don't want to
I
say
literally,
it and then
yeah,
be
I was
wrong.
like, maybe
That
I'm.
product. Oh my god.
Yeah, we can bleep this out if we can't say another brand's name. But
No,
I
it's
mean,
fine.
they have so much artificial junk in there that people are having health problems.
Mhm.
And it's because this idea that like male products need to be so like hard, like
Yeah,
these
like
hard.
jam-packed with I know, and like you said, I feel like guys, they'll hear, "Oh, hormones or like hormonal imbalance," and they'll think, "Oh, this isn't for me," but
Totally.
you have
Or that'll
hormones,
make me
like
a woman.
yeah, it's like, that's not you have testosterone in your body, like, this is important for you and your fertility and,
Yeah.
your future, so it's important for both male and females. It's important for everyone to take a look at what you're actually putting in your body instead of seeing, a big company because he's a big influencer put something out and just, like, automatically consume it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I completely agree. I think it's so frustrating because like as we're watching these statistics just get worse and worse, and like, there's so many men in our lives. It's like, please listen to us.
Mhm.
We're only doing this for your benefit. Like, eating natural ingredients is not going to make you less of a man.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
For
Exactly.
going
your
to
own
make you
good.
more of one. It's
No,
actually
Yeah.
going to make them more
literally.
of one.
Literally.
Yeah.
And I just need to touch on what you were saying about the whole like area of the gym healthy lifestyle, like what they eat is healthy. It is so crazy to me that like when they go through their bulking season, men and women, they're in this bulk and then cut, like they are just eating food to get that bulk rather than reading the ingredients. And it's so sad that there's not more brands out there that we can inherently trust because as you said, like not all of us can be experts. It's the sad truth. Some of us just aren't even passionate about it enough to be an expert. So everyone's just trusting these companies and we can't do that because they simply aren't providing us with healthy ingredients, which is why Kateri and I both loved your guys' brand so much, Resist, because it's one of those things that you can just pick up and not even have to question. Like, the ingredients, it's clean. I feel good at eating this. And that's the most important part. And it's really sad to see how everyone correlates working out or, moving your body with just being healthy in general when it's, you need the movement, but you also need the ingredients as well. So
Yeah, and also just going off of that, a lot of people look at working out too as a punishment, which is also an issue because
Mhm.
working out is so good for you. There's so many health benefits and longevity benefits, but like you'll even go to workout classes and instructors are creating
God,
this
yeah.
narrative that like you deserve this pain, which is so backwards.
Yeah,
And
like
why
work
would
off
any
your lunch or
Yeah,
work
or
off your
they'll, like,
dinner.
bring up, like, "Oh, you went out last night, like, let's sweat out the toxins." It's like, you don't need to work out because you did that, like, they
you
shouldn't
should
go
want
hand
to
in
work
hand or
out and you
yeah.
should like
yeah.
have that be able to correlate like feeling better and having more energy from working out and building muscle, which is just another bone to pick.
I could go off on a tangent about
Mhm.
that because it's so crazy because Kateri and I personally absolutely love moving our body and we get a ton of questions like how do you stay so motivated? And I'm always laughing because I'm just like, it's not really something I need to be motivated for. I love doing it. The benefits that I receive are
Yeah,
amazing. And it's because,
totally.
maybe because we do pair it with such healthy ingredients, it's so hard to view. Like, we would never view it as a punishment. I'm not working off anything because I trust everything going into my body. So that's
Yeah,
why it's such important to like pair those two together.
totally.
I completely agree. And I think that's another issue that I have sometimes with the hormone health space. Sometimes you'll see people get very specific on what kind of workouts are hormone healthy, or beneficial or better for people with PCOS or better for people with high cortisol. And I think that this is just a dangerous path to go down because you might love running and now your favorite hormone health influencer is telling you that you can't run because it
Mhm.
spikes your cortisol. It might
Yeah.
not spike your cortisol. And that's another thing about like the hormone health space is incredibly bio-individual. Like you might love to weightlift and that really works for you and that's what you want to continue to do because the movement that you will keep up with, movement that you will do all the time and enjoy and stick with and create like associate good energy with
Mhm.
is going to be way better for you in the long run than the movement that someone told you is better for you, because it's the one you're going to stick with. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely a proponent of doing what you like.
Yeah, I feel like you have to be, and this is with food as well, really listen to yourself and your body. I remember when, the fitness side of, hormone balancing and all PCOS, all that, I really started to see it more. I was like, oh, I need to, sync my workouts with my cycle.
Yeah.
So I started looking into that. And then I remember I did it for like 2 months and I was like, this just did not make me feel great. Like, sometimes when I'm on my period, I have my best workouts. Why am I just going on a walk when I felt like I had more energy in the morning to do something more? But I was like so nervous that I was then messing up my hormones. And then I was like, oh, wait, okay, I can play around with this to something that works for me. And like, there's
Right.
some days and some periods in the month where I'm like, I need to walk. Like, I cannot go lift weights. I do not want to do anything hit related, whatever. And I know that and I understand that. But people are so influenced by others and it's hard because you see these people on Instagram, you see maybe they have PCOS and so do you and you're like, "Oh, I want to feel like them and I want to look like them." So you just do what they do, but it has to be intuitive and that's why you just have to like block out the noise sometimes and really get in tune with your body, which all leads back to food because if you're not fueling it right, your body's not going to speak to you right, right? Like it's all so
Totally.
interconnected.
I love that. I love the idea that you are listening to your body. Like it's actually not something we're taught,
Mhm.
like not something we think about. It's not a language that we really learn at a young age. So I think it's a super interesting conversation. I feel like haven't really talked too much about this on just between us and me and Emily and our kind of the content that we put out. But it is so important to really listen to what your
Mhm.
body is saying because it does tell you what it needs. And if you can start to read those signals, then you can really start fueling yourself properly and doing the activity that you need to do. And I think that's where kind of the very oversimplified advice that my doctor originally gave me of, diet and lifestyle is the only cure.
Mhm. Yeah, like
You
it
know,
all circles back to that.
yeah, exactly.
So, if you guys don't mind, I kind of just want to bring it back to PCOS, right? So, you both mentioned
Yeah.
PCOS. For someone like me who I'm honestly not that familiar with PCOS in the slightest of like what it really is, I hear it, I see it on social media, I know it affects women, but could you guys just kind of break it down for our listeners who also may not understand, like, what is PCOS at the core? What is it? I heard some of the symptoms, I heard your symptoms, but are they the same for everyone? Is it curable at all? Is it something that you live with forever? Kind of just go down that route.
Yeah, yeah. So to kind of refresh, PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. Um, and yeah, it's not something that goes away. You can heal your symptoms. And there's discourse online of people who say that they cured their PCOS, but medically you cannot cure it. It'll always be something that you're predisposed to. Um, but you can heal your symptoms, and that's really the goal: healing the symptoms and managing it. Um, but yeah, it's an endocrine disorder at the end of the day. And those symptoms that I experienced can come back. And so it is really important to stay on top of those activities and diet that make you feel really good. But it is a very pervasive problem. And a lot of, like I said, the symptoms go normalized under the rug, unnoticed. But there's a lot that's very complex because there's a lot of different, you know, there's discourse on PCOS as a whole and what is some people say that there's 4 types of PCOS: adrenal PCOS, post-pill PCOS, insulin-resistant PCOS, and one more. Like, of course, I'll forget it on the podcast. But whatever, we'll have to
we'll
insert that
insert
one.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Drew forgot this, and it's actually this. But yeah, there's 4
resistant, adrenal, inflammatory, and post-pill.
inflammatory. So there's discourse on, you know, if you can really diagnose people into these 4 types of PCOS. And then there's also another side of it, which is thin type PCOS and non-thin type PCOS. So you can get diagnosed with PCOS because you've recognized that you gained a significant amount of weight, and that could be in kind of like an insight that you might have PCOS. And you can have kind of the opposite happen. You know, it's interesting. The real way to tell is if you have 2 of the 3 main symptoms. If you have irregular periods, too many and inflamed follicles on your ovaries. So those are the quote unquote cysts, but they're not really cysts, they're follicles. And then also irregular blood work. So for most people, that is excess androgens on your hormonal chart, which is kind of the male pattern hormone. So that can cause things rather like hair on the face, like male pattern baldness. It can cause things like acne and inflammation. So those are the 3 things that really make a PCOS diagnosis. You only need to have 2 to get the diagnosis. And then also you can have related issues. So, you know, PCOS influences about 13 to 15% of like, what is it called? Reproductive age people with ovaries. And we like to say people with ovaries because you can be trans and have PCOS. And then also endometriosis is a disorder that is very well aligned with PCOS as well. And then you have things like related comorbidities like insulin resistance, where a lot of women with PCOS have it. So it's when you ask like, what is PCOS? It's a lot of different things to a lot of different people. People experience it differently. It's so complex. You have people who go on the internet and say this cured my PCOS, and it can get really confusing to people who are newly diagnosed. But when you actually look at the research, some of the best things that you can do for PCOS are long-term, a lot of work, and it can be, you know, really tough to just make all of that happen at once. But if I were to give like my top 5 things to do after a PCOS diagnosis, I would say, well, definitely look at your chart and see if you have any glaring things to take care of. Like you're deeply deficient in vitamin D, like let's get started on a supplement there. Start to remove endocrine disruptors from your life, fragrances from personal care, removing plastic Tupperware, getting rid of toxins from your cleaning products. I would say also to increase your fiber and putting fiber before you eat other things in your meal to help reduce that blood sugar spike. I would also say getting a lot of sleep. I think people forget about the importance of sleep, especially for PCOS. We as women just need more sleep. That's really important. But it also helps with cortisol, getting movement, and movement as a form of self-care. So that's really important. I mentioned cortisol, but it's just almost everybody has in America because of our lifestyles and the amount of sugar that we have. Most people have flares in cortisol, depending on the time of year, what you're doing, your job. This can all like really influence that. So trying to reduce cortisol is also really huge. So those are my recommendations.
When you got diagnosed, is this what your doctor had told you to go about, or was the first thing they mentioned like birth control? Did they tell you that it would be this whole lifestyle change?
No, the first thing she said was birth control and then metformin. and then told me all the side effects that you can have with metformin. And I
From
was like,
that, yeah.
absolutely not. And then she said spironolactone. And
Wow.
so this is a story that I don't often tell because it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it's
But,
disappointing, it is.
yeah, it's I was diagnosed and I followed doctor's orders. I tried birth control, I tried spironolactone, and I didn't feel good. I
Mhm.
felt weird and the symptoms didn't go away and it didn't work. And I feel like that's what happens with a lot of people when you just go for the pharmaceutical and it addresses one thing but not all of the others, or maybe one thing gets slightly better but now you feel weird or your mood is
Mhm.
off, or you're tired, and really it's so much work to kind of go from square one and actually treat the root cause rather than the symptom.
Yeah, like, I feel like people want a Band-Aid solution, but
Yeah,
the Band-Aid's gonna burst open eventually, and like you said, it might, cure like, help one symptom a little bit, but it's gonna open the floodgates eventually to other things that then now you have to go, like, really, really far back to try and get to the root cause of everything.
exactly. You're
Mm.
delaying the inevitable. You're going to
Yes.
have to address it eventually.
Eventually, yeah.
Well, it's so sad that in this industry they even give you a band-aid like diagnosis like that where they don't even give you actionable steps really to potentially curing it, or not curing it, but healing those symptoms in a healthier way. But they immediately say birth control or these other prescriptions instead of, hey, you know what, this actually also can do that for you. It's just so sad that you had to take the initiative to start this healthy journey and really read into it and become an expert, on hormone health and what foods affect you and how they benefit your body. So, it's up to the individual to take it into their own hands, and not everyone has the time for that, which is why it's just so upsetting, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Totally. And that's like something on the medical system and what's being taught in med school, and the whole issue that doctors have like 10 minutes per patient. And yeah, I can go down a rabbit
Yeah,
hole.
I was gonna say,
This is
Emily,
so personal.
yeah, I'm
Gosh.
sure that's frustrating for you, having a nutrition background as well, like seeing, how things are kind of taught, or, maybe like what mainstream, pharmaceuticals are like. I can imagine it's very frustrating. I'm very frustrated and I'm not even like in that industry
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a worker. I'm just, I'm the consumer of it. And so it's frustrating. It's I'm sure it's really hard for you as well.
Yeah. I mean, just like I've never had a meal at a hospital, but you can just imagine like this tray with mush on it. And they also give patients just like nutrition supplement drinks
Mhm.
that are full of calories. And none of these foods are good for you or foods like as a whole. They're all just frankenfoods. And
Mhm.
if a hospital is feeding their sickest people these foods, how do they expect anyone to get better? There's also a study where a prison gave inmates a multivitamin, and the people that took the multivitamin, their aggression went down significantly. They had so many other beneficial reactions just from taking this multivitamin, which just goes to show that our lack of support in the food system creates so many other issues.
Mhm. Yeah, and then it comes to like, okay, we wanna give a multivitamin to everyone in the prison. Now they're gonna up the price of everything because it's just not,
Yeah.
like, normal to have that across the board, right? Then, like, things get more expensive, then you pay more for clean ingredients, and it's like, if this was just all mainstream to be natural and normal, then we wouldn't have to worry so much, and I feel like it would be more affordable to everyone and more accessible to everyone, and not like, "Oh, let's do a study on it," as opposed to, "Let's just implement it," right? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
add it
then
into the prison instead of only giving it to a select number of people to kind of test the waters of it.
totally. And another big issue is that all these pharmaceuticals, they've been studied, the studies have been funded by big pharma, but then these alternative medicine approaches, they haven't been studied because you can't really study them and there's not enough money behind them to fund these studies. So then the higher ups in the medical space, they're going to come back saying, well, there's no data to prove it. The studies haven't been shown. Well, I mean, people like our ancestors have been eating like this. Like it's
Mhm.
real food. It's what you're putting into your system. Why does that need to be studied? Obviously, a supplement you're taking that you don't know what's in it should be studied. But like
Mhm.
broccoli doesn't need to be studied.
Yeah.
Like there's plenty of research on like turmeric and cinnamon and broccoli and leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables. Like there is a ton of research on it, just not for PCOS or diabetes or used for any of these things in the same way that these pharmaceuticals are. And I'm the daughter of a gynecologist. I feel for these doctors who they were not given the opportunity to learn about nutrition and to learn about alternative, or many of them weren't. There's plenty of great clinical nutritionists and functional practitioners who are focusing on that. So not to discredit them, but plenty of gynecologists and endocrinologists who they are looking at the pharmaceutical research, and when they go into their portal to see what is the latest research that's come out for treatment of a certain disorder, they see these pharmaceuticals and the research looks good. And it's only natural, I think, for them to believe it, because that's what they've been taught. And I think from their perspective, oh, wouldn't you want a pill that'll fix it? Like, don't you want a Band-Aid? Don't you want a pill? Like, don't you want a quick fix?
Yeah.
And no, like, I think that is just really not giving enough credit to people and the future of our health.
That was a great point, honestly, because
Yeah.
it's so like we are able to heal ourselves naturally, and it's so sad that they don't have that like hope within us and just want it to be like a super easy fix. They're almost instilling that idea in people that it's that easy to fix these problems when
Yes.
it takes work for your body to be healthy, and we've drifted so far from our ancestors. Like that is the saddest part, is that now we have these pharmaceutical, big pharma really preaching these things to us and telling us, oh, that's not backed, but we can trust our ancestors and we can trust that they knew what was good for us. But they obviously don't want to preach that, because the things that are good for us are also going to heal us. And in my opinion, they aren't really looking to heal us. They maybe want us to stay sick. They want us to stay on their prescriptions. And that's just
100%.
it. Yeah, it all comes down to using the consumer, honestly. And that's what's the saddest part, is because instead of healing us all, we're all kind of getting stuck in the cycle of being so dependent on them and feeding them money so they can continue to grow. And it's so devastating to see that this is like the direction we're moving in.
It's all about money. It's
all about money.
Corrupt, and we've become so brainwashed. Just think about the commercials on TV. Like just now, I'm starting to see commercials for like AG1 or Clementines, but that's because I'm like aware of it. Commercials are typically about medications.
And like really happy people taking medications.
And for some diabetic drugs, they're like, you don't have to change your lifestyle at all. You can keep eating what you want to eat. Just take this drug. And I'm like, how?
That's like
how does that even sound normal? Like, how did you even script this commercial and be okay with those words?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's why we need people like you guys to start trustworthy brands and put out products that actually have meaning behind them. So let's kind of switch gears into Resist. So like Isabel said, when we first saw your guys' company, first of all, we were like immediately like, yes, like just by going on your website, I was like, yes, 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 this is literally so amazing. So what makes Resist so different and so much better than maybe other protein bars or just other like granola bars out there on the market?
Yeah, so we set out on a mission to really fill the gap between the sports nutrition bars and the blood sugar friendly bars that are filled with artificial ingredients in order to meet the macros that they're trying to get or taste like a candy bar, and the bars that are natural but filled with sugar. And those, I will say before diving in, those bars can be really beneficial for some people. If you're on a long bike ride, if you're on a run and you don't have blood sugar problems, you can use those carbs to fuel that cardio workout. And for a lot of these brands, these, Cliff Bars of the world, that was their original purpose, was to be used for long bike rides and long cardio. They are not meant to be used at your desk or between errands, because they are just going to spike your blood sugar. So going to say that there is merit to them in some cases. But then there's nothing in the middle, nothing that has completely natural ingredients, but also is low in sugar and then also tastes good and is ethical.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll let Emily talk a little bit about what exactly makes us different as far as the ingredients that we use in our process and our medical advisory board and kind of everything that went into creating Resist.
Yeah, so we like to resist a lot of ingredients. We resist sugar, alcohols, flavors, glycerin, syrups, brown rice protein, and instead lean into a combination of vegan protein, prebiotic fibers, and healthy fats, which is what creates that blood sugar stability aspect. And then we use different superfoods that are known to support hormone and blood sugar, like goji and maca and cinnamon and turmeric. And we also have the black pepper extract for the turmeric to make sure it's activated and good. But yeah, like Drew mentioned, we teamed up with our medical advisory board, which helped us make sure everything was on the right track, that we were formulating something that we said we were doing. And we also ran a clinical trial just to make sure our bars did keep blood sugar stable like we were promising, which they did. The studies show that we keep blood sugar 6 times more stable than our competitors. But like Drew mentioned, there's just so many bars on the market that are promoted as being healthy, primarily because they are protein bars. And we just associate protein bars as being healthy. But when you take a look at the ingredients, sugar is usually the first ingredient, whether it's in the form of brown rice syrup or like beet sugar and those sources, which are totally greenwashed for you to think that they're healthier, even though it's sugar at the end of the day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And like a lot of these sources are just cheap. Like brown rice protein, brown rice syrup. These are cheap ways to get in, like, honestly low quality. And brown rice itself has a host of issues, even though it's so prevalent in a lot of the big fitness brands we see. It has a huge problem with absorption. It's too absorbent, rice in general, and it absorbs heavy metals. And when those products get tested, you see all these crazy headlines of, this protein has crazy heavy metal levels. And I think that that's something, it's just, like Emily said, it's incredibly frustrating to watch, these seemingly healthy things just really not live up to their claims. And other things that we do, kind of like Emily said, we got our clinical trial. We're also just committed to more clinical research. So in the next few years, we'll be doing more clinical research in order to make more statements and get really clear with the benefits that we actually do. And that's another thing that we see missing from a lot of the other brands out there, is a lot of talk and very little proof. And I think that is, again, like it's our job as food producers to make sure that we are doing what we're saying we're doing, and keeping up with that is a huge part of what it is to make a food product, and make a health food product in general. Because if we were like, in the produce space, of course we can say like, yeah, broccoli is good for you. Eat the broccoli. Versus when we're making a product that has a handful of ingredients, how do they react together? What are the benefits of them reacting together? And so we've put a big emphasis on the combination of ingredients that we use. So the ratio of protein, healthy fats, and fiber. And that is like the real hero, is the PFF, it being what keeps your blood sugar stable. And then kind of for the hormone health element of the product, we add on kind of these superfood ingredients, kind of like Emily was mentioning, turmeric, maca, cinnamon. But at the end of the day, like, these are just added benefits. Really, you're getting the hero is the combination of really, really natural, clean ingredients to keep blood sugar stable.
And how did you guys decide we want to work with a medical advisory team? Because I feel like not every young entrepreneur would think to do that. And, maybe you were like, we want professional opinions, but what even sparked that idea, and how did you even go about doing that? Like more of the business side of things.
Yeah, I think, well, one, lucky to have a parent who is a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I've been surrounded by doctors my whole life. I think that was kind of the original kind of pain point for me, was that here are these doctors who I love and trust so much, and they didn't give me good advice for my own health. How can I expect, other people to have better outcomes than me? We have to do better. And that was one of the reasons why we wanted to have a medical advisory board. And I think anybody who's gone through a medical diagnosis like mine will tell you, like, it is an extremely vulnerable position to be in, and you put a lot of trust in your doctor. And working with the right people is incredibly important. And so having a lot of different opinions. So we knew we wanted to have a medical advisory board for sure. And we also wanted to have a medical advisory board that was not just one specialty or one type of clinician. We have a gynecologist, we have a pharmacist, we have a clinical nutritionist, we have a functional doctor, we have a PCOS coach. And so really kind of diversifying our medical advisory board was also a huge part of just having one in general. And then the other part was we knew we wanted to do clinical research. So big part of doing clinical research is having a doctor with you to help oversee the trial, help write the study protocol, help make sure that all of the participants are safe and healthy, and really just make sure that everything runs smoothly, and that the results are accurate. So that was another big part of it. Is we knew that we needed a lot of efficacy when it came to the product, and that a medical advisory board was really the only way to make sure that we were making the best product that we could make.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So the medical advisory board kind of initiated the clinical trial idea, I'm assuming, correct? Like they took lead on that, or was that you guys?
That was us.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's amazing.
That's ballsy too. Like, you're really putting your product to the test too. And like, that's another thing. We went on and saw the clinical trials, right? And it's like, it's literally in front of you what they're preaching this, and it's actually doing this. Like, they're putting their money where their mouth is. So I
would love for you guys to share a little bit more about what exactly, like, what was your clinical trial? What test did you run? How did you conduct it? How many participants? What did you compare it against? Just because, if we are, like you said, it is a lot of talk. We're talking right now. How can our listeners really trust Resist? And I would love for you guys to show them how trustworthy you are by just tapping into a little bit more of that.
Yeah. So we did our clinical trial last year in the summer. This was a couple of months before we launched. It was done with an independent investigator. So they ran the trial and helped us kind of coordinate and recruit the participants. We did a 10-person trial, all done through continuous glucose monitors. So the control was our competitors. So on our trial, I think we have it listed as competitor 1, 2, and 3, but it is RX Bar, Aloha, and Go Macro. So we compare ourselves to other natural bars since we only use natural ingredients. And through that trial, we did 90. So basically, each participant came and fasted, and then we did a 90-minute trial for our product. So they took the product on an empty stomach, and we tested their blood sugar continuously throughout the 90-minute period. We collected all that data and then brought them back day 2 to do our competitor, and then day 3 competitor, day 4 competitor. And so we were able to see the fasted blood sugar for all of those different competitors. And using that data, we were able to determine that we keep blood sugar 6 times more stable than our top 3 competitors. Wow. But it was, a really fun thing to be able to see in real time, like just watch it happen. Mm-hmm. And I think we went, like you said, it was ballsy. We went into it like with full confidence. Mm-hmm. And a big part of that was that we have worn continuous glucose monitors. I have a sensitive system, so I know that my blood sugar responds abnormally, and it kept my blood sugar stable. It also kept Emily's blood sugar stable. It kept some of our like early pre-sale customers' blood sugar stable. So we went into it with a ton of confidence just from that. And then, we're really happy, of course, when the results were really overwhelmingly positive. And that's another reason why going into this secondary set of clinical research that we are going to go into it doing a lot more testing. So having different control groups and working with different blends and seeing, can we get even better results? And we're super excited. I think this is the really exciting, fun part that there's so many brands out there we're science backed, and have no research of their own. We didn't want to be one of those brands. So this is a huge part of that. And hopefully one day in the future, we'll be able to make a discovery of some kind that impacts diabetic and hormone health research for decades. Mm-hmm. It'd be great.
Yeah. And going off of that, a lot of our customers are CGM wearers. just out of interest, or they do have diabetes and they send us in their data without us asking. And we still keep their blood sugar stable, ranked 10 out of 10, which is super awesome to see that these are real people outside of a clinical setting. It works in real life scenarios, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So when you say like it keeps your blood sugar stable, what does that mean? Like, why is that important? Right. So Isabel and I we're fans of RX bars because it's the easiest thing. Like
Not anymore.
Yeah, I know. Drew, you talked about the like
Natural flavors.
you're going to your job, you're going to class, whatever it is, and you just go to grab something. Like that's Isabel and I like, oh, we're going skiing. We'll grab that for the mountain. Or I'm going on a road trip today. I don't have time to get food and I don't trust the food on the road. I'm going to grab an RX bar. Why is it important to keep our blood sugar stable? Like, why is that relevant to our lives and our health?
Yeah, I'll start with an anecdote and then I'll let Emily go into like the actual science behind this. When I told my story, I said that I tried these natural bars, and RX bar was a big part of it. RX bar blueberry, we love that flavor.
Yes.
But I started seeing, and I expected different results, something different, because I had gone from eating these sports nutrition bars to eating something like RX, and I really stuck to like RX, Aloha, and I saw the same exact symptoms. So like, why was I still getting acne from these products? Like, why was I still dealing with a ton of fatigue? Why was I totally inflamed? And I found that these blood sugar spikes can cause excess sebum production in our skin. They can cause blood sugar spikes, which lead to fatigue and that like 3 p.m., 4 p.m. energy crash. And they can cause inflammation because it's an inflammatory response. So my inflamed face, like it's so funny because we look at these old pictures that we have, like we'll put it in videos, and Emily is like, "Who is that? That does not look like you."
There's one picture, and I'm just like, "It's nice." There's one picture, I'm like, "That's just not you." It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, Emily, if you want to touch on like the actual science behind blood sugar spikes and like why it's important to keep it stable, I feel like you probably know a little bit better than I do.
Yeah. So I guess what's a good way to go about this? When your blood sugar spikes, we all know what a sugar rush is. Like you get this burst of energy and then the kid passes out like 5 minutes later. That is a blood sugar spike. Your energy goes up so high and then it drops so quickly. And then your body's reaction to feeling the sense of tiredness is sugary stuff, salty stuff to bring the blood sugar back up, which will just crash again, will lead to those cravings again, and just creates this endless cycle, this lack of energy, this buildup of inflammation in your body, which can result in a plethora of diseases and other issues. And so focusing on keeping your blood sugar stable keeps your energy level stable. It also helps support your body. It's not in a fight or flight mode. It's being supported at this stable level. You don't get those cravings, and your body helps fight off inflammation. It's just in a safe space when you keep your blood sugar stable.
Yeah, I have the same situation, Drew, where I look at photos of me in college and I simply can't recognize myself because like my roundness in my face and everything, like my family is like, that's not you. And I think a lot of that is because when I graduated, obviously I wasn't into like the same lifestyle I was in college. I was like, okay, I'm over this. And I also started getting into my hormones and really researching and trying to figure out like what was working for me. And a lot of that was about blood sugar and that spike and just all that stuff. So it is funny, like when you mention that, I'm like, I can relate because some old photos of me, I'm like, I literally don't recognize myself. Who is she? Because I'm not her. Like, definitely that is not me anymore.
And I just need to add off of what Emily just said. That is so true about you, Kateri. Like,
yeah,
the amount of photos that I've sent her and been like, LOL, like, look at you. Just because, yeah, we're sisters, so I can do that. But just about what Emily said about how it's this endless cycle. I think that's the craziest part is that people think eating healthy or eating clean is so hard because they're having these cravings, but they're not understanding that if they just ate healthy from the start or ate real ingredients from the start, they wouldn't be having these cravings. It's actually the actual food that they are eating that's doing it to them. And it's like it can all be fixed if you go to the root of the problem, but they're just trapped in this cycle. And that's I think the worst part of it all, is that it doesn't need to be a
Totally.
negative thing. It doesn't need to be hard. It's actually very easy if you just tap into really eating whole foods, you know?
Mhm.
Totally. Like everything is so oversweetened. It's out of control. And I mean, fruit, if you look at fruit, it's so big and it's so compared to what it should look like. A piece of fruit is supposed to be a lot smaller and it's also a lot sweeter because it's in a smaller bit. But everything's been engineered to be so much bigger and so hyper palatable that we just lost connection with how food should taste and how it should treat us, or like how we should feel after eating. Like I crave salads, I crave vegetables and protein. I don't crave chocolate, or I do crave chocolate, but magnesium. I don't crave
Yeah.
cake.
Chocolate
Like,
wasn't a good example.
yeah, sorry, we love dark chocolate. But like after a long day out, like I just want a big bowl of steamed vegetables and protein with olive oil. Like I crave that. That is what my body needs. And I feel good after eating it. Like I don't feel bad. I don't feel like I need to go take a nap. I don't feel like I need to unbutton my pants after I eat this stuff. And you can't really overeat it. Whereas if you have cake in front of you, you could eat 2 cakes and still be hungry, still crave more, and feel bad after.
Mhm. So what are some ingredients then that are hormone disruptors, or like are certain ones that, say people can't go to Whole Foods or something and get their hands on a resist bar, right? So what's something to look for that is like, okay, that's just like your red flag waving in front of your face, like stay away from it.
Yeah, I think if the ingredient is a bunch of letters that you don't really know how to pronounce, stay
Red
away from
flag.
that.
Yeah, red
Yeah.
flag.
Yeah.
If the word glycerin is in it, that's also problematic. But also take a look at how long the ingredient list is as well. In our deck, we have a protein bar, and the list is so long that we cannot fit it on our deck page. It's over 40 ingredients,
Oh my
and all
gosh.
the ingredients are just like letters,
Yeah.
which are, you just know that they're not good for you. But also looking at the nutrition facts, if it's super high in carbs and there's no fiber, but it's high in sugar, that's also an issue. And just making sure that there's enough protein and in everything, and also staying away from, I know this can be a little controversial, but oils like olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, we love, obsessed, love her, but staying away from the refined oils like canola oil, rapeseed oil. I think that those are just so inflammatory and we should all stay away from those.
We hate
Ban
seed
seed
oils.
oils.
We
Ban
love
seed
Yeah.
oils.
Yeah.
Yeah,
our
we
listeners
have
know, our followers know seed oils are literally our biggest
Yeah,
enemy. Like,
they're
I
Yeah,
know.
and they're in everything. And it's so, people can get so confused because vegetable oil, cottonseed
Yeah, it
oil,
seems
Mm.
that
healthy.
sounds amazing, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's
I
like
know.
car oil.
Literally.
I mean, they're literally having people put car oil into their bodies
It's
and they
crazy.
Like
expect
if you
us
look
to.
at where canola oil came from, it was to put on machines so they can like run properly and be
Yeah.
lubricated, literally, not
Yeah.
so we can put it in our food and try and digest it. Like
Yes,
No,
it's
literally.
really
exactly. We are
crazy.
we are seed oil haters.
Yeah. Good.
Absolute haters.
Good.
I also like same thing with glycerin. It says vegetable glycerin. And glycerin is like a personal care ingredient. That is like
Mhm.
something that's in lotion. Why are we
Yeah.
eating this? Like, and just sugar alcohols in general, anything that ends in gum,
Mhm.
gut disruptive, don't eat it. I would say stay away from conventional whey protein. It's going to be inflammatory, it's going to be gut disruptive. Yeah, definitely things that are like you can't pronounce and are like birthday cake blend,
Yeah.
that's probably not going to be very good.
Yeah.
And I think like try to get your protein sources from real protein whenever you can. As a bar company, we definitely, it's coming from nuts, it's coming from pea protein, it's coming from hemp. Look for those. Like if it's coming from a weird protein source like soy or brown
Brown rice.
rice, stay away. Just like it's not high quality. You might as well just go home and try and make a meal of you know real protein.
Mhm.
And then I think like at the end of the day, like you want to just fill your meals with whole foods. Like we're a protein
Yeah.
brand. When you're on the go, when you're in a pinch, as a snack, for a resist bar. But every other chance you get, have a real meal. Have a
Mhm.
meal that has complex carbs and protein and fiber and fat, because that is at the end of the day like what your body is craving. And
Mhm.
that's a full around meal. I think any nutrition bar company that comes on here and says that they're a meal replacement, they're lying to you. You should not use a bar or a shake as a meal replacement. It's not enough. It's usually not enough calories. It's usually not enough protein, fiber, or fat. You want to get a full meal. I think that that's really important. And like, let's say you're on a road trip, like you're about to go on a road trip today. Totally fine to like have bars and other kinds of snacks, but it's no replacement for a real meal. I think that's like super, super important to say. I think a big part of our problem with blood sugar in this country is that we are so diet focused. We are so hard on ourselves and just very the ED disorder, it's so pervasive in this country, and we get so hard on ourselves. You eat one thing in the day and the day's ruined and you're going to crave more, and it's so hard to get out of those habits. I definitely think going on a at least like a refined sugar cleanse is a really great place to start. And even just trying to remove those things slowly out of your diet, if you're starting from square one, I definitely think that's a good place to start, because it's so easy to really be hard on yourself and to not be able to get going, because it's just difficult.
Yeah, and I'd also add in the order in which we eat is super important. So starting with vegetables with that fiber and then protein and then getting to the carbs last makes such a difference on your blood sugar, which will make such a difference on your cravings, your satiety. So many restaurants put the bread basket out first, which is such an issue. But if you have your salad first and then your chicken and then the bread, like you can still have the bread, but have it at the end of the meal. The order in which you eat will make such a difference on how you feel.
It's crazy. I feel like they're setting us up for like failure. Like, why are you giving me bread first at the restaurant? Like, why
Some people talk about this, the bread, like it's blood sugar spiking, so it makes you more hungry. So you want to order more food, you want to order the soda, you want to get dessert because you start your meal with the blood sugar spike.
Yeah. It all comes back to the money. Always make the check higher. Let's sacrifice your health. It's so crazy. I just had a question while you guys were talking there, just because, Drew, I was thinking of how you said, you tested out RX bars, still getting the same results, but they brand themselves as such a, like, I fell for it. They brand themselves as such a clean, natural ingredient bar. Like, they put their ingredients on the front of the bar. It's not a laundry list of ingredients. Like, what is in a brand like that? What's in, I don't know if you can speak on that, but what is in their bars that it's like, oh, yes, it's natural ingredients, but they hide this in there that's still causing that blood sugar crash?
I will also say with them, there is another, like, they use natural flavors. Not everything is listed on the front.
Yeah.
They just have such a great foundation in the CrossFit community, where I feel like you do need a bit of a blood sugar spike for that. But their main ingredients dates. There's 23 grams of protein in the bars, and there's not that much protein. But
there's 23 grams of carbs, you mean?
Yes. What did I say?
Protein. Oh. It's like, no way they have 20
I was like,
hell no.
Okay, there's 22 grams of carbs in the bar from the dates. Okay. And there's not enough protein or fat to offset that, let alone fiber. And when you have a high fat food that's also high in carbs, that's also an issue. You don't want both. Like, a high fat, high protein, high fiber diet that's also high in carbs isn't going to offset the impact of the carbs.
Right.
And so just because of the presence of the dates, that's where the carbs and the sugars are coming from. The RX bar, I did test on myself, and I've never felt so bad. It was an emotional roller coaster. My blood sugar spiked up so high and then it dropped so low. It did not, the energy was not sustainable.
Well, it's funny. I wear the Oura Ring, and the other day I got a notification of new feature tracking stress throughout the day. So basically kind of tracking your heart rate and when you get those spikes. And I was on the go that morning. And so I worked out in the morning. And then when I got home, showered, I grabbed an RX bar and then a meat stick. But I eat the RX bar first. And I was like, oh, I had literally just seen the notification about the feature. So I clicked it, and my blood sugar, my heart rate, everything was so elevated until all from the time of working out to eating that. And then literally right after, it just dropped like crazy. And it was you were stressed out for 2 hours. And I was like, what? I wasn't stressed, but my
Yeah.
body was probably like in fight or flight that whole time of being like, what is
Yeah.
going on here? So it was just
Totally.
wild to see that. Like after that, and then literally after I saw that is when we got in contact with you guys, and I'm like, this is it. This is my replacement.
Yeah.
God answered my prayers with this one.
I
Well, and
wonder
it's
what would have happened if you had the meat first and then the
Right,
bar.
and then I was like, I like wanna test it out, like, do my own trial on myself of, like, I know if I and I knew that too, I'm like, "Why didn't I eat the meat stick first?" And I was just like, wanted the sweet blueberry RX bar.
Yeah.
There we go.
we're not trying that. Kateri, we're not trying that. We're only doing resist from now on
Yeah.
out. Of
No,
There we
they
course.
go.
literally,
Yeah, of
they're
course.
so good.
RX bars is banned from my like they
I
will not be in
posted
my
this on our
pantry.
Instagram, but the consistency of the resist bars is, like, my type of vibe, like, I love that, like, thick it's like perfect bar vibes, but just actually like good
Healthy.
ingredients and no
Yeah.
seed oils in it, like no junk. But so when you guys were coming up with like an ingredient list and you have 3 different flavors, what was the hardest part from like the business aspect of starting a company that was trying to use all natural ingredients? Like, was that really hard to source? Was it really expensive? Like, talk a little bit more about the business aspect of trying to be like a really clean brand and stay true to that name.
Can I add
Yeah.
something to that question? Just because Katira had the same question, I was thinking like in a world that promotes these unhealthy ingredients and creating products that, you need it to be cheaper, like how difficult was that creating a
Mhm.
bar that's also really clean and actually good for you?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you're kind of getting at it with the question. It was hard to formulate it.
Mhm.
It's no wonder not everybody is making a product like this. It's not super easy. We realized pretty early on that we needed to do a few runs to really understand how to make it taste and have the right texture, and we're always iterating. That's another reason why, every time we make a change, more clinical research needs to be done.
Mhm.
We need to make sure that we're always verifying that it still works, even if we make slight changes to fix the texture or to change, we want to add chocolate chips or whatever it is. To make sure that we're staying on top of that research is incredibly important. So that's another, business part of it, a financial part of running the business. And then the ingredients are expensive. It's also why people use things like brown rice and seed oils. They're so cheap.
Mhm.
um, and that's why they're so common. It's like, from a business perspective, if you know nothing about nutrition, and plenty of nutrition founders know nothing about nutrition, from a business perspective, if you hear that, oh, we can achieve the same exact taste and texture, but use an ingredient that is half the price, from a business perspective, it makes total sense to choose
Mhm.
it. But once you know and you have the responsibility to take care of your customers' health, you can't include those things. So
Mhm.
yeah, the first thing we realized was, oh, this is going to be an expensive product. So immediately we knew we would need to be, premium priced on a consumer facing side, and then hope that as we get bigger and bigger, we'll be able to buy those ingredients in bigger quantities and
Mhm.
eventually lower the cost of the product. Because at the end of the day, we know that blood sugar problems disproportionately affect people of lower income. And we want to be able to be accessible and support those communities. And as we kind of go down the path to becoming HSA applicable and allow people to be able to, use those funds to buy products like ours, to get healthier products for less, we're trying to, find alternative methods right now. So one of those things, one of the ways we do that is working with doctors,
Mhm.
getting into their patients' hands through working with them, is one way that we do that. And then, the rest of our customers usually are able to afford our product, which is great.
Mhm.
But as we grow, it's definitely a big point for us to be more accessible in the future.
Yeah. I think it's so awesome because you could just tell, even listening to you guys, how passionate you are, not only about your product, but about making sure you're staying true to it. And
Yeah.
you're not trying to just make a bunch of money off of people because you started a business and now this is your income, right? Like, you really are trying to drive a purpose and really provide value to people, and that's like, you're not compromising anything because you need to make more money that quarter, right? Like, you're going to stand behind your product and the ingredients, and I just love that. Because not, you if you go to another big company, they might have the boss telling you, yeah, cut cost, like, use the seed oil over the other oil because it's half the price, or it's like not even one fourth of the price, right? Like, it's so much
Yeah.
cheaper. So I truly just appreciate that so much, coming from a consumer standpoint, because I'd rather pay more money for better things. Like, I'm willing to do that. I'm investing in
Yeah.
my future and my health. It's not like an expense to me.
See
Go
this
right ahead.
when small companies get bought out by big companies, the
Mhm.
whole ingredients list changes because the big companies are just looking to make profits, which is such an issue because something that you used to love and support is now a totally different product.
Mhm. I know. It's crazy. The food industry is a wild experience. It really is. So I gotta
And
give
like
you guys.
there's so much more that you don't
I
even know.
know. I know. I can imagine. Like, I only know it from, like, the consumer side of it and just having more of an understanding of, like, I know I'm passionate about my health and food in particular. I care about what I put in my body, but not everyone cares that much, and not everyone will be willing to turn a bar around and read the back of it before they put it in their cart and buy it. Like,
Yeah.
not everyone does that, and I do. I'm a psycho about reading my ingredients, but I know that's more of a niche area.
But it's a
Yeah.
good thing. I think, like, the more we educate ourselves about ingredients, the better our public health will be because
Mhm.
we influence what products get made. Our consumer demand will tell these larger companies, we're not going to buy products that have seed oils. We're not going to buy products that use gums and glycerins and sugar alcohols. So they'll stop making it, is the
Mhm.
idea.
Yeah.
Hopefully, eventually, one day.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
That's what I think that's what I hope we're all really working towards. And I hope that by, it's great that you guys do have things like clinically proven data to show people like, okay, like I do trust you. So I will pay a higher price. And hopefully, like, as more people start to get into that and trust their actual products that they're buying, the quantity will go up, or, you can buy products in bulk and then drive the price down so it is accessible to everyone, because
Mhm.
that is the goal. Like, I want everyone to be able to buy healthy ingredients. And it's so sad that it's flipped where, the cheaper option is, that's why fast food is a thing. The cheaper option is McDonald's. How can someone say no when they're living on a budget and the burger's $4, but you go to the store and like the real meat is like $25? You know what I mean? So it's so sad that that's the future we're heading towards. But hopefully, because of you guys and because of other companies out there, are seriously making a change and leading us towards a direction where everyone will care about it.
Mhm. Now, because we are our podcast, we really try and show our listeners and just give them ideas about how to improve their lives and go after their dreams and really just improve every aspect. So, another business question, we'll kind of end it on this business question of, you probably had doubts, you probably had fears, and I'm sure being two female founders, that was also hard. How did you really work through having those doubts and the fears of, what if this isn't worth it? What if this isn't going to take off and then we just put a bunch of money in and didn't succeed? Like, what were your things you kind of talked to together, maybe to, like, keep you grounded and keep you going? Or, how did you talk yourself through it to, get to, like, the launch table and push out your product?
Yeah, I would say those thoughts still happen every single day. Like every day, I'm like, why are we doing this? It's so hard. But it's those messages from customers that say, like, I wear a CGM, I feel amazing, like I can see it. I have type 1 diabetes. This bar like really works. You're really doing something here. That's what's so reassuring. This is probably, I don't know if we need to dive into this, but I'm gonna. We've entered every competition possible and we have yet to like really win one. And that's always it really kills your ego. But then you're just reminded, like, this is a select group of judges. Like, there's other people we have customers who buy our bars, who buy them on subscription, buy them in bulk, feel the difference, see the difference in their CGM, and are reaching out to tell us that our bars are making a difference in their lives. Like, that's so much more valuable than a judge's opinion.
Who just simply may not be as passionate. That's why it's like, I totally get that. I would be so upset too if I like didn't win a pitch. But
Right.
it's like, you can't expect all of them to be so passionate about health. Whereas if Gachiri and I were the judges, we'd be like, yep, resist. Like,
Yes.
that would be, it would so resonate with us. And like,
Yeah.
that's
And
not the entire world.
another
Oh, go
piece of
ahead.
feedback we always get is, it's another bar. Like, we don't need another bar. But the issue is we don't need another date-based bar. We don't need another artificial bar with 400 grams of protein, but they're going to wreck your gut health and you're going to be on the toilet the whole day. Like, this is a different bar. The bar space is crowded because everyone's just trying to create their own I kind of think branding, but ours is just so different compared to everyone else. So that's another piece of feedback that we're like, we're not just another bar.
You should start your next pitch with that. We are not just another bar, and I don't want to
Honestly,
hear
yeah,
it.
you're so right.
Yeah.
Use it
Because
against them.
you guys are truly like the only bar. If I don't have you guys, like it would be RX, and I know that they have natural flavors. You guys are literally the only bar I've ever seen on the market with this clean of ingredients that I actually can trust. So it's like, this is the first one in the entire industry. Like, what do you mean? It's not just another bar.
And their
So-
Black Friday sale has started, so you can go get 20% off.
Yes, get 20%.
Yeah. So one last question for you both. What is one piece of advice that you would give our listeners who are just starting this journey with PCOS or even hormonal imbalance?
Because it's overwhelming, as we've all talked about.
Yeah. I think my one piece of advice, if I have to, because clearly, if you listen back to the podcast, I have so much to say about this. I care so much about this community. I feel very protective over it. I feel like when I was first diagnosed, I was inundated with this supplement and this, group and this way of life. And that was a lot. And so I think my best piece of advice is take it day by day. Don't throw away all of the things in your fridge. Don't throw away everything in your cabinet just because, it might have fragrance. Slowly replace things as you go. Slowly change your habits as you go. Because at the end of the day, you're building a larger lifestyle. You're building something that's sustainable. And this is going to be the thing that you want to be able to do for the rest of your life. And you don't want that to feel like a chore or like a punishment. You want it to feel like an exciting, really joyful thing that you're about to do. And it's a journey. It's it's a marathon, not a race. So take it day by day. Don't be too hard on yourself if you don't do everything all at once. If it takes a little longer than you think, be kind to yourself. That's a lot of advice wrapped up into one, but the gist of it is, take it day by day.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so important. Any lifestyle change, it has to be a day by day thing, not something so drastic of a change where you can't sustain it. I think that's really important to say.
I would also add to just be an advocate for yourself. I really got the ball rolling just by listening through podcasts. Those are free. And there's so many doctors that I love. And at the end of the day, so many of them are saying primarily the same thing. And I think that there's so many free resources that we have access to that we can also take advantage of. Like even getting a library card. Libraries have basically every health and wellness doctor's book that I would ever want. And like that's a free resource as well. So I think also just advocating for ourselves, taking a little time to learn what's going on, learn the bases. And that's about it.
Yeah, you got to sometimes be your own doctor and be your own researcher because
totally.
no one else is going to care about your body as much as you do.
And no one understands it like you do.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you know yourself a lot better than a doctor knows you. No matter how much you tell them something's wrong, they don't feel it and don't know what your optimal is compared to what you're feeling.
Exactly.
That's a great point.
Okay, so why don't you guys tell us where we can find you, where people can buy Resist bars, hype yourselves up, hype up
Your
the company.
socials,
Yes,
everything.
we want to hear it all.
Yes. You can find us at eatresist.com and then Eat Resist on all social media channels. So TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
YouTube,
we are not on X.
Amazing.
Pinterest, yes. So find us anywhere. Please, if you wear a continuous glucose monitor and you eat Resist and you try it, please send us in screenshots. We absolutely love to see that stuff. And if you have any questions, concerns, you are listening to the customer service of Resist as well. So we can answer any questions that you have. And yeah, eat Resist.
Just a reminder, they are having their Black Friday deal, right? That's happening right now. Yes, you can get 20% off. So me and my mom have like 4 things in our car right now. I'm like, check out. No, literally, because I gave my mom a bite like as I was tasting them, and she was like, "We need more of these right now." Because she, quickly running out the door to go to work. I'm like, "This is perfect for you. You need this too. Like, you're a woman with hormones. Like, you might be older than me, but it doesn't matter. Like, this is still extremely important." So, thank you guys so much for coming on today. We literally cannot thank you enough. I enjoyed every ounce of this conversation. I felt like I could have talked to you guys all day long about this and just gotten to know you even more. So we appreciate you taking time to educate our listeners and educate us and share Resist with everyone.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Of course.
Yeah, this was awesome.
And a
Thank you,
note to
guys.
our listeners, resist the bad ingredients and choose resist.
Yes,
Exactly. Resist
exactly.
the
Yeah,
bad
that's
and
good.
I like that resist the bad. When you said that earlier, I was like, oh my God, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I was like,
that's great.
that aligns.
Yes,
Um,
that's really awesome. So thank you guys so much. We hope you all have an amazing rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.